You are listening to the Kentucky X-Files with hosts Dennis Mays and Tyler Stewart. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Spotify or YouTube so you never miss an episode. Now, to our show.
Something that would be in the context of the supernatural.
He described it as being a gray, silver-looking, upright bipedal creature, dragging a deer out of that cave and going up the hill.
Where he goes, hey, I got a question for you. He goes, do you believe in demons?
And it takes one big step and vanishes. I'm like, oh my God, that was a Bigfoot.
And look at these pictures of this white creature.
Something 7'3" to 8 foot tall.
Right.
That, let's say it like.
And I'm telling you right now, if this was a bear, then this bear was standing on his hind legs and he was running like a man. No, this wasn't no bear.
Now, when it stood up, that's when I knew it was a dog man.
There we go. We're back again. This was supposed to be our off weekend.
Yeah, we finally got ahead, and we were like, hey, let's just take a day off.
Let's take a day off and relax. And what happens? An interview drops right on our lap, and we had to scramble to set the studio up.
Yeah.
In a hurry. So. Yeah, here we go. Here we go again. The guy we're going to be talking to is Joshua Grierson. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, he can correct us. He is... He'll have to correct us if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he said he was a truck driver and pretty much kind of an amateur cryptid investigator. So, he reached out after the... Candace episode, the Dogman episode, and he wanted to get in touch with her. Then we went on a quest trying to find Candace again because we couldn't get a hold of her for a while, and we finally did. We're glad to hear she's okay. And he's actually in contact with her now to set up an investigation to go to her property, her area, and take a look for himself. And then he said that he would contact us and let us know what he finds.
That's awesome. I would like to see another set of eyes out there, like just with any of these, because she seemed like she had a lot of activity out there. So
that was a crazy episode. I remember listening to her when she was telling us, and I was just blown away by the amount of things happening and the detail provided, in each individual thing that happened. So, I know you wanted to plug the email, get people like Josh, calling in. Let us know your stories. If you want to put some eyes on something for us and get a hold of us, email us. Let us know
at encounters@kyxfiles.com.
We have been doing. We have a YouTube channel. It's gotten a lot of. It's gotten a lot of fire on it too lately, which is awesome. You can check that out. Look us up, YouTube. It's just spelled out one word, KY X-Files, and you can check out the videos if there's one available for each podcast. And if not, and if it's easier just listening on YouTube, you can do that too. It's all there. Just like and subscribe that, share it out to your friends, tell everybody, tell grandma, tell grandpa, whoever you have to. Get it out there, and the more input we have, the better. Even if you're a skeptic, let us know. Let us know why you don't believe in something. We need this information in front of us. It helps. We want to weed out this stuff. So, yeah, I guess I don't have anything else to really plug, so
Me too.
I guess we can give him a call, see what he has to say. Oh, I didn't make sure I was pronouncing your name right earlier here. Is it Josh Grierson?
Grierson, yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right.
Hey, I was going to ask before I mention anything. Y'all talk about like things in the sky and UFOs. Y'all good with that?
Yeah, for the most part, we're pretty much good with everything. We've been kind of stuck on this cryptid thing lately, just because so many people have reached out and so much stuff has come to us. So we've been trying to focus on it, but we're not opposed to any of those topics. We're very interested. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've seen a few things, man. I've seen one thing that really grabbed my curiosity after listening to a podcast.
No kidding.
Yeah, I was coming from Lebanon, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And I just got to listen to a podcast about how I think it was China Airline.
Yeah.
Had passed somebody 6,000 feet up with a jetpack.
Really?
Yeah, it was 2 times they passed a guy in a jetpack at 3,000 foot, and then there was another occasion where they passed a guy at 6,000 foot up.
Wow,
and
6,000 feet in the air, Jesus Christ!
Yeah, and it was the airplane. I mean, it was a liner. You know, they're taking people.
Yeah,
and they had the audio from where the pilot had called it in and asked them if there was anything on the radar, because they was passing a guy in a jetpack. Jesus,
yeah, that's nuts. I've never seen anything like that. I've seen where people have reported UFOs when they're on, taking a flight somewhere, and they look out and see something out there, and it's keeping up or doing circles around the airplane. You know, it makes you wonder.
Yeah, that thing I seen that night, man, it had a long orange tail. And if you've seen shooting stars, they're kind of, when they pass by, they're kind of red in a split second.
Yeah.
Well, this one was orange, and it was going fast, but it was going slow enough to where you could see it, watch it go across the sky.
Oh, no kidding.
And I was like, man, if that was a man on a jetpack, it was one of them right there.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? So, Josh, you pretty much reached out to us after the Candace and the Dogman story. And I know me and you have been talking back and forth a little bit since then. And I kind of, every time I got a message from you back and forth, and I know we had a little trouble getting a hold of Candace and trying to find her again. Like I said earlier, I'm glad we did. We were kind of worried about her. But you said you had an interest in checking out her place and, getting to the bottom of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're definitely going to get a time set up to get out there.
Oh, yeah.
And get to looking around and see what we can find on the property itself and put some shovels in the ground.
Hell yeah. Have you done that sort of thing before? I mean, have you investigated other spots?
This would be technically the 3rd time I went out on somebody giving me information. My first time we went out to the Pinnacles in Berea.
Yeah.
There was a guy that I had heard on a podcast that had talked about that area, said he was run out by 6 Bigfoot.
Really?
And yeah, he was on the National Geographic's about it last September.
No kidding.
And he had told me about it, and I talked him into kind of giving me a certain spot to go. And so we hiked up through there late in the evening, still during the daytime.
Yeah.
And we hiked all the way to the top. What we found 2 big wallered out spots on top of the mountain. Okay.
Yeah.
Couldn't really come to a conclusion of what that was, but there's nothing in my book big enough to be up there to waller these 2 spots out that bad.
No kidding.
Yeah. And then I had got up with somebody from the KBRO, and they had told me to check out the Twin Knobs. They're in Cave Run.
Yeah.
And they said it's an active place. So we hiked up through there, and, naturally when people say they've seen Bigfoot, everything's quiet.
Yeah.
So we went through the daytime, but 10 minutes into the hike, everything was natural. Birds were singing, squirrels were squawking, And then we get, about 20 minutes into the trip, dead silent. Silent all the way to the top.
No kidding. No birds, nothing, huh?
No birds, no nothing. So we kept noticing it. It's like, they was humming and going on at the bottom of the mountain. Why are they? So we decided to, open our eyes and our ears a little bit more to see if we could see or hear anything.
Yeah.
So we made our way to the top, and it's like the last loop because it spirals up is how the hike is to the top of Twin Knobs. On the last spiral on the right, there was 3 tree breaks, and they was, in my opinion, they was done within a day or two.
Really?
Because they was still really fresh, really green.
Yeah.
It was small pine saplings, probably 3 inches through the center.
Okay.
And normally when you damage a pine tree, you'll get pine sap.
Yeah.
And there wasn't no pine sap coming out yet.
Okay.
So we figured, that was, extremely fresh.
It's not an easy thing to break a pine either. I mean,
oh no! See, I took pictures of them, and one of them, I'm not an expert on trees, but I'm pretty sure one of them was a hickory.
Yeah.
And I got pictures of a spot. If you look at it, everything's natural, but one spot where you could see where something had grabbed it with force and kind of compressed the outer bark.
Yeah.
Or a hickory tree is kind of stringy.
Yeah.
But you could see where it was kind of compressed. I don't know how they do it.
Right.
There wasn't nothing, there wasn't no indentions on the bottom half. It's just the top half. So, I mean, if this thing broke it over just by the flick of its wrist, I mean, you're talking about something with pretty powerful.
Oh, yeah.
But we found those, and we looked around. I looked for footprints and stuff. We couldn't find no footprints or anything.
Yeah.
But there's a way that you can just cut straight down the mountain without looping down. And we cut down 2 loops and found another section of saplings that was broke over, and they was all pointing the same direction.
Okay.
But they was all looped over, broke over.
Yeah. What would you say?
Was the only.
What would you say the distance between those 2 different groups of trees was? I mean, if you had to guess,
you're probably looking at 200 foot at the most.
Okay.
And they was, if you looked at them, I would say they were straight in line with each other, because we went straight down. We didn't take no curves, no turns, no nothing. It was a straight shot.
Yeah.
Another little interesting thing I found, where we found the second break, is I found a fossilized seashell on top of and what I would say is one of the tallest mountains over there. I found a fossilized seashell up there.
Wow. Okay. I mean, just sitting there out in the open, or?
It's kind of wedged into the hill a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was, I guess, dumb luck found it, because I just happened to be looking down. I was like, well, I'll be damned.
Yeah.
That's a seashell. What's that doing all the way up here?
That's pretty cool.
That don't tell you the world was flooded at one point. I don't know what does.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? Yeah, it's interesting. This is the second time in a week that a cave run sighting has been mentioned to me. That's one of the reasons when I read your message earlier, my eye just instantly went to where you wrote Cave Run, and I just did an interview about a week ago with someone who had an encounter right there at Cave Run.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I'll tell you, 1, 2. I got 3 things about Cave Run that was within a year recent.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and tell you about those. So I've got a guy. He's become a really close friend. It's one of my really close friends' uncles, and we got connected because one of my really good friends, he didn't believe in Bigfoot or anything like that. And I was talking to him about it.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got an uncle that's crazy about that stuff. I was like, well, you're going to have to hook us up. And his uncle lives in Cape Run in a cabin up there.
Really?
Yeah. So I'll start off with his property,
Sure.
or behind his property. So I think he was telling me last year, or towards the end of 2019, maybe into
Okay.
2020, he had hiked down the back part of his mountain because he's just adventurous. He just likes to be in the hills.
Yeah.
And he had went down the hill, and at the bottom of it, he found 3 trash bags that was tore all over the place.
Okay.
And I believed him because when I went with him when we went to Twin Knobs, we went on over to his house, and the reason I was going down that way is because there was 2 structures back there as well.
Okay.
And I've never seen one. I was like, I got to see this. So when we go to Twin Knobs, we're going to go behind your house and you got to show this to me.
Yeah.
So we went down there, and he had showed me he said he thinks, and I think as well, that they took those bags down there and they rummaged through them to get what they wanted.
Yeah.
And it was like a 6-7 month period that he had been back down there. All the trash was gone. All the bags was picked up, but one, it was buried under some leaves.
Oh, wow.
And this was 60, 70 foot away from the structures.
Yeah.
Now, one structure was a bigger structure, and I'm going to assume they kind of took some of it down.
Yeah.
But it was some decent sized trees laid on each other. And then the second structure was a really, I don't know why they would have built it. It was small.
Okay.
Unless maybe, I'm not saying that there was. My opinion, my thoughts about it is maybe that's where a baby would have laid, because it was really tiny. It was like a lean-to, but it was, the way it was built kind of blew my mind, because I started looking at the structure of it.
Yeah.
And one thing that really caught my eye is a lower limb. They had kind of dug out a little ditch in it to lay another limb.
Wow.
And yeah, that threw me. I was like, wow, that's really neat.
So it was actually engineered quite a bit.
Yeah, it's like there was some thought put into it
I think
for such a small structure.
Yeah.
And I guess if you was to size it up, it was maybe 2.5 feet tall, and it just went from 2.5 feet to the ground.
Wow, that's crazy. Oh,
And
yeah.
then it was sticks on each side, and it was the side of a tree.
Wow. Yeah, I'd like to have seen that. That'd be interesting. I think the geometry of the way they build them is what gets me.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll look at the picture to see if I took it good enough to where you could see where they had dug out of that one stick to lay that other one.
Okay.
It's really neat. I'll send them to you.
No, I'd love to see them. We can post whatever alongside this podcast, so our listeners can check it out too.
Okay,
that'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
Another thing is this guy. He's got a shed behind his house.
Yeah.
And every now and again, he'll hear them whooping and hollering.
Okay.
He's seen one standing down under the hill, just enough where you could see the top of its head.
Yeah.
This was at nighttime. And he ran inside to get his rifle.
Oh, no kidding.
I'm not gonna shy from it. He's interested in taking one down.
Is he really? Yeah, we've heard that point of view a few times. I mean, it doesn't really bother us. I mean, it's everybody. Not everybody has a good experience with them.
Yeah.
So, being armed out there, I personally don't have you know, anything. Like, I wouldn't want to kill one myself, but I will not fault anybody for protecting themselves out there looking, you know. There's a lot of stories of some violent encounters, and, you know.
Yeah, I've listened personally to everything you can listen to on a podcast. I'm now in the middle of listening to stuff on YouTube. That's what started it. Originally, the podcast that got me just turned on to this stuff was Viggs. I started listening to it and found out, I didn't know what Dogman was, and found out he had a Dogman radio, started listening to that.
Yep.
And after I listened to that one, I don't stop on the side of the road to take piss anymore. Won't happen.
I hear that.
I tell you, it's there's a fear of me stopping on the side of the road and something I don't know's out there might get me.
Yeah, I hear that. It's there's stories that we've listened to quite a few of them ourselves, and there's some strange consistencies going on in them, and I don't know what to think. You know what I mean? It's the Dogman's that's a big can of worms to get into. We're going to be going into Dogman eventually. We have some interesting information about the Dogman, and we're just not sure how to release it just yet, and if it would be safe for us to release it.
Well,
so that's pretty much where we're standing at the moment.
Eventually, we may come together on some of that.
Yep.
Depending on what we find.
Sounds good, man.
The other story with Cave Run is I'm pretty sure it was last summer. So out there, I seen the spot. They showed it to me as we drove past it, going to Twin Knobs. You're past it going to Twin Knobs. It's over on the left. So there was a couple that was walking down this boat dock. It's an older boat dock. And they was getting close to it, and they'd seen something at the end of it. And I said, what is that? And apparently they had seen a Bigfoot at the end of it eating fish.
Okay.
Not sure how they snuck up on it like that.
Did they see it pulling fish out of the water, or just standing there eating it, or what?
They said it was sitting there eating 2 muskies.
Wow.
So they was close enough to identify the fish.
Yeah.
Now this was a second, I guess you could call it a third-hand story. It was told to the guy that lives over there, and then he had told it to me. When he hears something new, he'll call me and we'll talk.
Yeah.
When I hear something new, I'll call him. We'll talk about it. We stay in the same level of this stuff. Well, we both know the same amount, I guess.
Yeah.
He was also there's a river behind his house.
Okay.
And I think this was last July. He said there was a family down there fishing, and on up the river there was another family, and it was starting to get dark, and he said out of nowhere he heard a big loud howl.
Wow.
And he said, I knew what that was. He said apparently the family down there fishing knew what that was, because they packed up and they left.
Yeah.
And he said it had howled again, and the other family on down the river had packed up and left. And he's gotten into it a little bit with the fishing game over there.
Yeah.
Recently flying drones over his house and out back in the mountains behind his house recently, like extremely recent.
Yeah.
And I reckon he had got into it because they wouldn't ask him what they was doing, and they just played it off as we're looking for something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be what it was.
I wouldn't be surprised if those black helicopters start showing up.
Yeah.
Been hearing about that a lot lately too.
He has seen drones at night, and the way he explained it to me, I can't hardly remember it.
No.
Colors on the bottom, and he said certain ones that have like FLIR on them.
Yeah.
Have a certain color light on it.
Oh yeah.
And that's what he had seen another night out by his house. And he's getting really curious as to why they're doing this. It's either, he thinks they're either looking for Bigfoot back there,
No.
or that they actually think Fish and Game is trying to track elk.
Do you know the name of that Fish and Game area? What that would be called?
I'm not sure. I didn't ask him.
Yeah.
It was something that he told me pretty quick because I was busy.
And that's down at the is that down at the Cave Run area?
Yeah.
Well, we'll just ask him out here on the old podcast. You got Fish and Game down there around the Cave Run area. We'd love to know all about your little drones you're flying around. So if anybody wants to get in contact with us, do so. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to hear your answer.
Yeah, because they can't deny there's not something over there. There's too many people talking about it.
Yeah, there's way too many. Yeah.
KBRO, they don't disclaim where they go, but their last investigation was in the Daniel Boone Forest, and I know it's over there. They won't tell nobody, but
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of people that's like, no, we ain't gonna tell you this and that. I mean, I get it, but I'm not a fan of it either.
Yeah, we're not either.
I personally, you've got these researchers that have all this information. They have sounds, pictures, everything.
Yeah.
But they keep them to themselves.
Yeah.
And the whole name of the game and why everybody's doing this is to prove their existence.
Right.
So why be stingy?
I think recently I heard a point made by Steve at howtohunt.com. He'd said that you have an
Steve
encounter.
Isball?
The howtohunt.com, the facts.
Yeah.
Yeah, he recently stated that there's so many people with encounters, pictures, audio. He pretty much went on to say that okay, we know they're there. He's like, but there's a bigger problem. Why aren't we being educated about this from early on? Why are they not talking about it? Why are mainstream scientists so quick to shut it down? I mean, forestry, forest rangers, park rangers, fish and wildlife. You got officials that will straight up, when they're off the record, just straight up tell you, yeah, we know they're out there. We're just not supposed to say.
Yeah, the point of that I don't understand.
Yeah, why?
I mean, look at June. What's happening in June?
Yeah.
They're disclosing information about UFOs and aliens. They done said that, like the last thing that happened with the pyramid UFO.
Yeah.
The Pentagon said that's not us. Nobody around has that. That's a UFO.
Yeah.
What I think and I'm hoping is when they come out with that, cryptid side is hopefully going to slowly start pouring out too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because at this time of day, man, people need to know. If they ain't tough enough to know, then there's something wrong with them.
I mean, look at this too. I'm actually me and Tyler are sitting here. We're talking to you from my farm out in the hills of Kentucky.
Yeah,
and I'm right here in the middle of hundreds of undeveloped acres of forest. Mm-hmm. I would say that me and the few other people that live in this valley, we would love to know the truth of what might or might not be out there in those woods. So we could be educated. We could know, what we need to do or not do to have one of these type of encounters,
Yeah, they could just give you a list of what to do's and what not to do's.
Sure. I mean, the military gave a pamphlet to to soldiers back in, what was it, the 70s?
Yeah.
That literally said,
about to say.
What you should or shouldn't do if you encounter one of these beings.
Yeah, I'm just saying is that these creatures, like, there's so many people that go missing in these national parks.
Absolutely.
And so why wouldn't you teach somebody proper, what to do in that situation?
Yeah. It's like saying there's nothing out here, and then you just go out hiking in the middle of the night, something gets a hold of you.
Yeah.
Well, I think
it's not a dog or nothing. It grabs you and slings you across the mountainside.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy. We've had some people talk about that it could be the lumber industry.
Yeah.
Because the lumber industry is so big.
It's $581 billion.
Yeah, so if we find out that these creatures are inhabiting a lot, like they move around a lot, so that's endangered, an endangered species. You can't take the trees here anymore. So a lot of people think it's a lot of conspiracy behind the hiding of Sasquatch, because there's so many sightings. Like, no matter what what you believe in on this, like on Sasquatch, if you think it's an archaic human, it's a descent, like a lost relative,
right? The Gigantopithecus group.
Gigantopithecus. It's just people are seeing something.
Yeah,
they're seeing something. Yeah. It doesn't matter what we call it. There is something out there.
Yeah.
That we are seeing, and I can't, like you guys were just talking about the Dogman. I can't wrap my brain around that, but somebody's seen something. I have to say that.
Somebody's seeing one.
Yeah.
And there's more than one that's seen it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that somebody knows. I think that somebody knows more about the Dogman than they'd like to let on, and I believe that. I don't believe that Dogman is a naturally occurring creature either. I believe that it's. I believe that it belongs to us, and I won't go into too much detail on that, but I have enough of a pattern on a map to show something pretty big regarding to that, and I want to know why they're around, and why does our Sasquatch pattern always avoid them? You know?
Yep. Now there was a story I listened to, and it was way back. It involved the Indians, and apparently this tribe had somehow come to a decision, because on one side of the mountain was Dogman, and on the other side of the mountain was Bigfoot. And whatever they come to was they wasn't supposed to take any of the children or women. And what I had heard was something ended up taking a child.
No.
Yeah. And so the Indians went over on the Bigfoot's side and had tore stuff up. And apparently that set the Bigfoot off, and they went after the Dogman.
Oh, wow.
Now, in a Bigfoot Dogman fight, I mean, most of the time you hear Dogman's 6, maybe 7 foot.
Yeah.
If you put an alpha male Bigfoot on a Dogman like that, I believe if he could get his hands on it, that's a had lad.
Yeah.
I think that'll beat him.
That's a mollywomping. Yep. I agree with you there. I think that the Dogman strength would be in numbers. I know that we hear all kinds of encounters about a solo Dogman, but it doesn't sound very dog-like to me.
No.
I always assume there's probably a few more close by.
Well, there's other stories that I've heard. You know, people will be in their tree stand.
Yeah.
There was a guy that was in his tree stand, and he watched 2 of them walking together.
Yeah.
Walk through the forest. But, you know, anything in the forest that's like a dog doesn't run on its own. And if it does, it's like a scout.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe he's there, but there's more not very far.
Yeah, clearing the way, making sure everything's good, or tracking game.
Yep.
We just spoke to a man. I think that episode released this morning. Robert Judd, who had a story that it was either his mother or grandmother told him about. They found a baby Dogman in a crate on a train.
I was listening to that this morning.
I thought that was pretty wild.
Yeah. I'd say this just happened, I'd say within a month or 2 ago. But my guy that lives over in Cave Run, he's a vet, and he's got family members over in California, and it's a family member's friend, and they both spoke to each other Facebook because he reached out to my guy and was like, told him the story and said, "What do you think this is?" And he said, "I want you to Google pictures of Dogman." Now, what happened to this man is he's a highline.
Okay.
He goes to the high lines that nobody can get to in the mountains.
Yeah.
Like he has a special vehicle that will get him places that won't get anybody else.
Right.
And like for instance, this man had found a missing person when he was working on a tower. He said that he was up on the tower and had looked down beside of a boulder, and there was something red. And he's like, it's a balloon or something.
Yeah.
That got caught up here. So he went back down to his truck he had forgot a fuse. He went back up, but he got his binoculars while he was down in his truck, and he looked down, and he's like, it's a jacket. So he come back down, and turns out there was a man laying there in a jacket.
Oh, wow.
And the spot was so hard to get into that the cops couldn't get a vehicle up there for at least 2 hours. So he had to go down, get the cops, bring them up.
Oh, geez.
Now, another day, he was up there working, and, they can have these devices that'll, run equipment up to the top.
Right.
It's electronic winch.
Yeah.
And he was up there working, and he had heard something howling, and he didn't know what it was. He just mashed it off to it's, something.
Yeah.
So he was up there working, and all of a sudden he had heard something down at his truck, and he was on his way back down to the ground and had looked down and said he had seen something. He said it was massive and it was black, and it looked like a dog, like a giant wolf.
Yeah.
And said that he was on his way down, and this guy, he packs when he goes up.
Right.
Because you don't know what's going to be at the bottom if you come down.
Absolutely.
And he packed a Desert Eagle's what he packed on him. And
fine choice.
Yeah, that's what I said. And as he was coming down, this thing had stopped at the front side of his truck, and he's like, I don't know what that is. So he clicks his weapon off of safety, and he said it had hurt him. And when it hurt him, it looked up, and it's still on all fours, and it looked up, and he said the thing smiled at him.
It smiled?
And, yeah.
Okay.
Now, he had said after it had smiled, it stood up.
Huh.
It went from all fours to bipedal. He said that it had come over to the bottom of the tower and was jumping, trying to get up to it, trying to get up to the lower beam, and said this thing was jumping 20 feet.
Wow.
He said he couldn't tell if he was close enough to get his hand on it or not, but he said he let loose, and he said he put 15 rounds into this animal before it finally gave up and went on.
Really?
He said, but when it had finally went on, he said he stayed up there for about 4 hours.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah. This thing was circling. He could hear it circling the area. And he said when it got to the point where he couldn't hear it circling, he got out of there. This man won't go back to work. He's
do not blame
going
him.
back to work without something the size of like a 45-70.
No kidding.
Because he had asked my guy, he said, I can take 15 rounds and run off and be fine.
Yeah.
And, he told him, he said, get on Google and look up Dogman.
Wow.
He got on there, and he messaged him back exactly what I seen. I don't know what picture he looked at to clarify that, but he's claiming it's Dogman. And
wow, yeah, that's...
For me, Bub, I wouldn't have come off that pole without shitting myself.
I would probably still be up there right now. I'd just, I'd be doing the podcast from the tower. I'd probably just live up there. I mean...
I always tell, this may be a little gross, but the guys I take with me, I always tell something comes out, if there's more than one of them, it's going to have a hard time eating me because I'm going to taste like shit.
Yep. Yeah.
That's it. You'll have a better chance with you guys than me.
I hear that. I've got a pretty good sized rifle that I keep around at all times, and I don't even. I mean, it's one of them things where I might not need it, but goddamn it, I'm not going to be without it.
Yeah.
Dog man or not.
I'm on my side.
Yep.
Now, for me, well, now I didn't know. This is in the let's see. I'll tell you the one. My guy's first sighting of one. His legitimate sighting.
Yeah.
He was in Virginia, and he was up in the hills, just scouting around a deer hunt. He had his deer rifle on him, and he was walking through this pasture, and he said something had caught his eye, and he said, I didn't know what it was. He said, and then I looked at it, I couldn't believe what it was. He said, I looked at it and looked at it. He said, then I drawed my gun. He said, I looked at this thing through my scope. He said it was no farther than 30 yards. And the only picture I could find, well, I couldn't find none.
No.
I sent him a list of, I think it was a 60 or 70 sketch artists' pictures that the guy had done. I think it was off of, it was one of the podcasts I'd been listening to. I'd heard him mention that he has a list of sketches that people's seen. I sent it to him, and he couldn't find nothing. The only thing he could send me was a wood sculpture somebody had carved out. Okay. And now with his sighting, it's something I'd like to have. It was calm, nothing out of the way.
Yeah.
It was just, Bigfoot and man staring at each other. And that's the only thing he had happen to him in Virginia. Now he's had that stuff happen to him over at Cave Run.
Yeah.
But the rest of these stories all happened in Kentucky.
Gotcha.
And a general area is stretching from Pikeville, Kentucky to Letcher County.
Yep.
Now mine, I had seen mine in a place, it's called Robinson Creek.
Okay.
And I didn't know what I'd seen. I didn't know what I'd seen for 10 years until I started listening to these podcasts.
Right.
I seen mine from maybe 1,000 foot away. It was walking down a holler field, and it just got done snowing. I was up there just playing around in the snow on a four-wheeler, and I come around a bend, I seen something walking down a mountain, and I was like, what is that?
Right. I
sit there and shut my four-wheeler off so they didn't know I was there. And I kept looking, and I watched this thing for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Walked all the way down the holler field until it disappeared. And I told myself after I'd seen it, I was like, I'm going to go down there. I got to see if this was a man or something else.
Yeah.
But when I started listening to podcasts, people were saying it looked like a man wearing all black with a black hood on. Okay. And I heard that for the third time, and I was like, that's exactly what I'd seen, because this was, it's hunting season. You don't go in the hills in that area without orange on unless you want to get shot.
Exactly, yeah. Had a friend of my family
shot at.
Yep. Absolutely.
Me, I was on something loud enough for them to know to shoot me. But I had a buddy got shot at on a dirt bike because he was
had a family friend that was accidentally shot during hunting season, and he actually passed away. He did not survive it. And the only reason was because from what I understand, he took off his hunter's orange, and I don't remember if he was going from where he was hunting to his truck or what, but he apparently pulled his jacket off, and bullet came out of nowhere.
Wow.
Just kind of clipped him. Yeah, it's terrible, but it happens, So I definitely see what you're saying, though, about wearing your hunter's orange when you're out there. It doesn't make any sense, especially people who are outdoorsy and they know this stuff. You're not going to be playing around on a mountain without some reason, or reasonable
some kind
education.
Of high vis on.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, for me, hunting them hills, you can ride through there and see orange everywhere.
Yeah.
There's not a time I've caught anybody in the woods that didn't have orange on them.
Right. Yeah.
And the thing that made my gears start turning after I started listening to these podcasts, is I used to hydro seed, and I used to have to go down them mountains dragging a hose and seed it all the way up.
Right.
It's not something easy to walk down in the summer, let alone walking down it in the snow. This thing had no problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just taking its time.
Yep.
Didn't see it slip the first time. Didn't see it grab the first branch. It just walked down calmly, evenly, and you know. Then when I'd seen it, you know, I was like, "That's got to be a Bigfoot."
Yeah.
But I wasn't that into Bigfoot at the time. You know, 2 years ago I started listening, and now that's my bread and butter. Yep. I can't help it.
Oh yeah, I feel like we're a unique breed too. As me and Tyler here, if you go back to the very first podcast, we started on the fence. You know, we were on the fence, and we were setting out to disprove a lot. But if I'm being honest, too many things have come our way, and there's way too many patterns and too many consistencies. And from then till now, you know, 15, 16 episodes later, we're both sitting here talking, and you know, we actually, you know, stopped one day and we were like, okay, well, what do you think? And we keep coming back to that as, okay, regardless of if it's a Bigfoot or what, something is going on.
Yeah,
and
there's something there.
There's something there that people are seeing. Yeah. And we're at a juncture now where we've dissected videos, all that stuff on the YouTube channel. We've dissected videos. We've went into detail about the migration patterns that we're finding. Maybe migration's a bad term, but I'm using migration as a term of I'm tracking the movement of a certain individual Bigfoot throughout Kentucky. We've nicknamed him Louie, and he likes to hang out in an area for about a year, and then he moves on after a year. And we've got him all along these rivers. And a couple of the places that you've mentioned that's his stomping ground. He goes right through there, and we think they're following deer. You know.
Now here's the thing. Think about this. Out of everything I've listened to, why are 90%, if not more, of the sightings in national forests?
Oh yeah.
You know, that's what I can't puzzle. Why are they staying secluded to that? You know, government-owned property.
Yeah, I always assume that maybe those forests are enormous. You know, there's certain parts of the year where people just aren't allowed to be there. I thought, well, maybe that was something. Maybe, you know, maybe the seclusion of it. Maybe we always hear about the encounters, but do we ever consider that maybe Bigfoot doesn't want to encounter us? You know, maybe it's happenstance, you know?
I think, you know, through the years that we've made way more of an impact than they've ever made on us.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, 100% they see us way more than we'll ever see them.
Yeah.
Until, you know, you get to the point, you know, the mind speak. You had a lady, it was either on yours or the Odyssey, that had said she speaks to them.
Yeah.
You know, until somebody can actually talk, and you know,
right.
I've never spoke to anything through my mind.
No.
But I'll tell you this: when somebody puts me on one, I'll talk to it through my head. I'll talk to it through my mouth. I'll write it a note.
Yep.
But I'm going to see if it's going to say something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you know, that's what I'm looking for. I'm listening. I'm trying to get in contact with certain people.
Right.
That's like, you know, I was debating on who to tell all my stories to.
Right.
To get my name out there to see if somebody would trust me enough to come out, because, you know, you got these other researchers that come out there, hoop and holler.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff. Uh-oh. We lost him. Let's see if we can get him back on the phone here. Oh, got it coming in here. I think we lost you there, buddy.
That may have been my bad.
That's all right.
Understandable. We do it all the time.
We thought maybe Bigfoot might have grabbed you for saying too much.
He's grabbing a whole semi off the highway.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, they come out there and they don't think about their actions afterwards.
Yeah.
And for me, what I do when I actually, you know, go somewhere, I stay quiet, I listen. I ain't out there to piss something off.
Right. Yeah.
I'm out there to maybe sneak up on something or get an eyesight of it, because like I told the guys that go with me, you all might want to run off. I ain't going nowhere until something's like right there in my face.
Yeah.
And hopefully nothing bad happens, but if something does present itself like that, you know, I've got what I need to protect myself.
There you go.
But
there's always the ethical question too. We've discussed this too. Is with our patterns, we may or may not be able to predict where Louis is going to be and when. But
yeah,
we discussed, you know, well, if we get down to that, are we going to release that? Because the ethical implications are pretty severe. I mean, we're observing to try to help prove the existence, but there are others out there that want to make a trophy. And I always wonder how many researchers out there have struggled with that ethical question and maybe have substantial evidence right there in their hands, but just can't bring themselves to make light of it, you know.
I'd tell them right now, you ain't got to tell me where you got it at. You could just show me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you could have got that in Alaska.
Exactly. You could get it anywhere.
I work too much to take off to go to Alaska, so your picture's fine with me, man.
That's it, yeah.
You know, that's, you know, I don't care what I run into. Bigfoot, dogman, little people, whatever's out there, I don't care. Right. I just got a itch, and it's got to get scratched.
I understand that.
Yep. That's why I talk to these people and stuff, and like, you know, I've got stories in places that nobody's got stories at, and you know, some people don't want to believe it, but you know, I've listened to these people tell it. You know, the next one I'm going to tell you, it's about one getting killed, and it's about one getting shot. I don't know if that one that was shot like it was died. Right. I know it had a reaction to the guy that done it, and the guy got a piece of it, but I know that one was actually shot. They watched it drop.
Yeah.
But this was in Virgie, Kentucky.
Wow.
Now, Virgie and Robinson Creek. Well, actually, it wasn't Virgie. It's Caney. But Caney, Virgie, and Robinson Creek are right there.
Gotcha.
And the other stories after this, I'm going to tell you, are right above it. Now, the family that I had had told me this story. I was dating her granddaughter, and me and her mama sit at nighttime just talk about random stuff.
Yeah.
And then she just come out and was telling me about her papaw. Her papaw, you know, they say they ain't one of those. I can't remember. I might remember to say. But getting into the Bigfoot part, so they lived at the back of this holler. I ain't gonna say much about it because there's people that still own this property. It's gated off, and they are extremely paranoid. They will shoot anything that comes onto their property.
Okay. Let's just keep them anonymous.
You absolutely have to have permission to still come on that property.
Yeah.
And one of my buddies, which is the person that told me the story, is her great nephew, and he got permission to go up there, and I'll tell you what happened with him. But back in the 70s, this is when their youngest child was born. So they lived in the back of this holler in a cabin. Now this cabin house is also haunted, but they had pear and apple trees out back, and at some point they had started noticing pears and apples was disappearing. That was the start of it.
Okay.
What come out? I don't have super good details about this, and I wished I did.
Yeah.
Because I love a good detailed story where you're sitting there and they're telling a story and you're right there with them.
Yeah.
But this isn't super detailed. It's just bits and pieces of what she had told me. But so they was a family of four Bigfoot, and they you know, they had problems out of them coming up to the windows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it had got bad to where every night when the baby would cry, they would all show up. And one night they had caught one looking into the window over the crib, and the husband said, "No, I've had enough of this." So it was the husband, their dad and uncles, all come out, and it was like clockwork. When that baby would cry, they would show up. So one night they all gathered up on the porch with rifles. Like clockwork, baby started crying, and they sit on the porch, and he said you could see all four of them come out of the woods into the flat.
Yeah.
And they kind of debated on what to do, but they kept coming closer, and one of them, one shot hit one of the middle Bigfoot, and they watched it drop. They didn't go out there. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
But they did not go out. They went back in the house because they had ran off. So the next day they was going to go out and see what it was. So they went out to where it had dropped. They said you could see the impression on the ground, but the body was gone. They had drug it off. And that was what I called their confirmed kill, because they had watched it die, or had watched it fall over, and it had drag marks. And for me, either dragging a dead body or you're dragging one that's screaming and going on, and they didn't mention anything about it screaming. So they had dead dropped this thing. So I'm gonna assume they didn't enjoy that because later on in that year they kept coming around. Now their middle-aged children, walked themselves out of the holler to the school bus stop.
Yeah.
And so the two middle-aged, one was a boy, one was a girl. They was walking out of the holler, and they had heard one holler. They started getting scared, so they just kept on walking to the school bus stop. And all of a sudden, this thing comes rushing out of the hills on them, runs them all the way back to the house.
Oh, wow.
This irates the dad. Now, the guy and the girl I was really close with, and the man is an artist, and I never asked him to do it because this dude, he's one of them, you've always met one. He's just rough and tough and not afraid of nothing.
Yeah.
But that terrified him. And I'd always wanted to ask him, can you draw me what you've seen? Because, his mommy and the sister and everything said he can draw you the exact image of what he's seen. I just took the work, so I didn't want to bring anything up.
Yeah.
But that had irated the dad. So it was snowing one night, and they started howling and going on. And the dad said, "I've had enough of this. We're getting out of here." Okay. So he leaves. They get in the truck. He grabs his .44 Magnum, lays it in the seat, and they're driving out. Coming out of the holler, there's a barn on the right side of the road. Sits right off to the side of the road. And said they was coming out, and the mom said, "There's one right there." He stops that truck in the middle of the road. He says, "I've had it with these things." Gets out, takes his .44, starts walking over to the side of the barn, and said when he gets to the edge of that barn, that thing steps out. He takes that .44 Magnum, sticks it underneath its chin, and pulls the trigger. He said when he pulled the trigger, that thing smacked him so hard he landed in front of the truck.
Wow.
Yeah. And the wife had told me, he said it took 3 days to get the smell off of it.
No kidding.
And I was over the moon. I was like, holy crap.
That's crazy.
I was like, that's wild. I couldn't imagine what he felt like.
Yeah.
I would have shot him too, because I wouldn't have known nothing else to do when something stepped out from the barn on me like that.
Yeah.
Towering over top.
I could definitely see a change of shorts after that one.
They'd have wheeled me out of there. I'd pass out.
Yeah.
It'd have done whatever it wanted with me because I'd have been lifeless.
But he actually got the shot off, though.
He got a point blank's what he said underneath its chin. Got the shot off, and when he pulled the trigger, I'm going to assume in between pulling the trigger and its arm swinging, met up perfectly. And said he got back up off the road, got back in the truck, and they peeled out of there.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, that's
a .44 Magnum.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a bullet to take, too, point blank.
Yeah. I always wish that I could get up with them and get her to retell me the story and actually ask details, because she told me this story when I was 19. I'm about to turn 29, so it's about 10 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
And what I told you is the exact words she told me, and that's the most amazing story I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's incredible. That is incredible. I don't know what I would do in the situation. I mean...
No. And, with that property... it happened, back in the day in the 70s, maybe late 70s, early 80s. I'm not sure how old the youngest is, but, with the great nephew, we got talking about it and stuff. He's like, well, I want to go up there.
Yeah.
So he went up there one night, and he got permission to get on the property. They knew he was there. And he says he pulls up there and pulls off to the side. He said, I rolled my windows down and I shut the truck off. He said, I sit there for about an hour. He said, and then I ended up leaving.
Yeah.
I was like, why'd you leave? And he said, something started screaming bloody murder, like a woman was being murdered.
Yeah.
I was like, you sure it wasn't, mountain lion, bobcat? I'm 100% sure.
Yeah, I've heard that scream from about 30 feet away, and it's not... oh, wow. It's not nothing that you want to stay around for. I can attest to that. It's It sounds like a woman, like exactly what he said. A woman screaming bloody murder, and for the last 20 years, I've had that scream stuck in my head. And only recently, maybe 5 months ago, I heard the scream again on a YouTube channel called Thinker Thunker.
Oh wow!
And once I heard it, it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up just the same way it did the night it happened. I don't blame him for leaving. Put it that way.
See, I've never heard that scream. I've heard all the other ones. I've not come up on the one that sounds like a woman screaming.
Yeah.
Now, where I live, when I moved there, I think it was 4 or 5 months ago, I'd come across KBRO. Yeah. I got on their website, and I live in Owen County. It's like 20 minutes from Frankfort.
Okay.
And I got on their list. I was like, wow, they've got, accounts in Kentucky on their list. And I was like, well, I wonder what's happening in Owen County. Yeah. I got on there. They've only got one thing, and it happened back in the 80s. And their story is 5 farmers checked hairy creature into a cave. Footprints led up to the cave. No footprints coming out. They searched the cave, couldn't find nothing.
No.
Now, the reason I started looking into that was because it's last November. I know it was cold. With my job, I choose when I want to drive. How we get a bid sheet, we bid our routes.
Yeah.
And at this time, I was going to work at 3 a.m.
Okay.
Now, where I live, it's country. It's country, farmland, little mountains, not nothing too big, but just minor mountains in my book. Not where I come from. We got big mountains, but they got I don't know what you call them, medium mountains.
Yeah.
But I come out of the house, quiet. I don't want to wake the kids up or nothing, and I hear what sounds like, now, you couldn't tell what they was saying, but it sounded like an older woman and a young girl talking.
Okay.
I was like, who's that? It's 3 a.m. Who's outside talking to their youngin'? And I shut the door, and my porch light comes on, and it stops. Like, dead stops. And I was like, well, that ain't weird.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, I come out the door and I'm hearing a woman screaming. I'm like, what is that? Now, it wasn't nothing that scared me or anything blood curling. It may have been, far off, and it just wasn't as good as what you got.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a woman screaming, but not like bloody murder. It's like she was really mad and just screaming. And, my next door neighbor, she's like 80.
Yeah.
She don't come outside that late. And the people that live probably an acre behind me are Mennonites. And, they just don't act like that.
Yeah.
And for that, I couldn't figure out what that was.
Yeah.
And then in December, I was coming home, and this had to be at least a mile away. They talk about some Bigfoot yells sound like a wind-up fireman siren.
Oh, yeah.
The older ones that they wind up.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're
And that's
talking
what I heard, and it went for like 30 seconds, stopped for 30 seconds, and it done it again.
Okay.
And at first I was like, no way. But remembering all the things that I've listened to and studied is how long the scream is how long taking a breath in is. And then most of the time you'll get another one.
Yeah. Wow.
So for me, we've got a lot of WMA land. So, it's...
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean...
padded down hunting. There's, no high-powered rifles, only black powder, and you can only bow hunt it. And I think they're there, but I think why they was there was, they was heading somewhere else.
Yeah, passing through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, also we're not too far from, what is it, Jefferson is where a hot spot is, right below Louisville.
Yep, that's it. That's our guy. That's our guy right there in that area, the Jefferson area. That's Louis. We've been watching him from afar. We put it together just by reading. We read an incredibly long list of sightings, and we had to weed out the ones that didn't make sense.
Yeah. See, I can't find nothing on that area. Nothing worth reading.
Yeah.
Because there's a place over there called the Memorial Forest.
Yep.
And now they didn't say this, but I guarantee you that's where they're headed for their next expedition.
Yeah.
Is the KBRO.
Oh, yeah.
Because, they said it's close to Louisville, and it's Jefferson. Because it's right beside Louisville. But that's what I'm trying to do is I had a guy message me and tell me, check out the Memorial Forest. That's a hot spot.
Okay.
So soon enough, we're going to do that too, to add on with Candace.
Oh, yeah.
And, out of this, if somebody's, got them on their property and they want some down-to-earth country fellers to come check it out, we're you dudes.
Absolutely.
We ain't going to do you wrong. We ain't going to cause you no trouble after we leave. On another thing that I wanted to say that I listened to on the Odyssey, and this is the only dude that said it the same way that I believe in it.
Yeah.
Is you all know William Jennings?
No, sure don't.
Okay. Well, I'm not promoting his stuff or anything, but the dude is informational.
Yeah.
But also, I think he thinks he's a know-it-all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's tracked families of them and stuff out in, the Sierras and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he has a podcast called The Creek Devils, and he's got 3 segments. First segment is, a regular radio show. The second segment is Q&As.
Okay.
Now, his theory on footprints, he's got an algorithm, is what he calls it, of being able to tell how big one is through his footprints.
Yeah.
Now, his has got all kinds of steps to it. Out of everything I've listened to, apparently there's one other dude in this world that thinks of it the way I do. and it matches up. It 100% matches up. If you hear somebody talking about saying they found a 20-inch footprint,
Yeah.
and then that's the first part of their sighting that they'll tell you is I found footprints. I measured it, it's 20 inches. And then they get into their sighting, and then they ask, well, how big do you think it was? If you take that footprint and you just divide it by 2, you're going to get the height of that Bigfoot.
Okay.
If you listen to any of this stuff, pay attention to that, and they'll be like, it was a 17 or a 16-inch print. Divide that by 2. It's
Gotcha.
8-foot Bigfoot.
Okay. That seems like a pretty straightforward way to, a pretty straightforward way to get a measurement,
Yeah. That guy, William, his has got like 3 or 4 steps to it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just about ready to email him. Just, just divide it by 2. Make it simple. Just divide it by 2. I've listened to 2,500 of these things. I promise you, that's how you do it. But another thing, I don't know if it was your last show or the show before, y'all was talking about Todd Standing.
Yeah.
The big question I got, if he's faked it all,
Yeah.
the last one he had on video, the black-faced one, that's pretty questionable.
Yeah. What did he call it?
Looked like he was videoing a black man underneath the tree.
Kubota, I think. I can't remember what the name he gave it was.
Yeah. It's now the first one, I say that's closest to a patty.
Yeah.
Not Bigfoot. The second one is my huge question.
Yeah. Yeah.
What in the hell was that?
The thing we've discussed here is we don't believe that Todd has faked his way through. We think that he had something happen. He had an encounter.
Yeah.
And we always wonder, if you've had an encounter and you're passionate about the subject, what lengths would you go to keep it going, to keep it alive?
Yeah.
So I don't know if he faked everything or not. I know on that second one, the one you're talking about, it didn't have a shoulder. That was the eyes didn't blink. It didn't have a shoulder.
It looked like it didn't even have eyelids.
Yeah, it looked like a doll. The first one, why does the leaf in front of its face disappear? In the second frame. Why doesn't it, when he changed positions to film it from a different angle, why didn't it even acknowledge him? We're talking about a creature that's probably, got us beat in the wilderness, 100 to 1.
We're talking about a samurai of the woods is what that is.
Yeah, this is the elite. This is the most elite survival observationalist that could ever have walked the earth, and it didn't even bother to glance over at the direction he was sitting in. Is Todd Standing the world's greatest, camouflage expert?
He's not invisible. I know that.
That's what I'm saying. It was questionable. Like I said, I'm not really here to tear Todd apart or anything, and none of the other researchers, but I believe that Todd saw something at some point, and maybe it's it comes down to circumstance. Maybe something happens. Now, we just went over, something recently, which we'll be releasing on the YouTube probably this week, about the power of the 7 hertz frequency, which is the infrasound that people keep discussing. And we're actually going to be doing a test with infrasound to prove that it disrupts cameras. And the reason we wanted to do this was because, the big problem out there were the blurry foots.
Yeah.
There's so many blurry foots out there, but then
I'm glad you're doing that. Out of everybody that's big in this world, why haven't they thought of that?
Yeah. Well, that's why we're doing it. We're trying to bring a new set of techniques. We have some unconventional techniques we want to try. If you're out there and you're exploring and you want some pro audio and pro video out there to capture stuff, let us know. We'll come out. We don't mind. we want to get as many eyes on this and as many opinions on this, and then we can start to figure out if there's a pattern to it all. And, you know, the infrasound thing, I think, is going to be a big deal because it causes a lot of the things that people experience in their encounters. And it definitely...
There's been people that's been like, apps, like, wasn't there one that died over it?
Probably. I mean, there's so many, yeah. I mean, we were talking about the electronics. So we've had people say that their electronics literally shut down during the encounter.
I'm curious about, you know, the battery power dying quick, and you know that's I think that's where most people is getting the, you know, the ghostly stuff out of it.
So I think that the 7 hertz frequency, when it hits an electronic device, even a battery, it's basically a vibration that's disrupting the way that thing works. And everything on Earth, you know, works on different vibrations. So if you disrupt that, even the human heart, mind, you know, the intestines, kidneys, everything, if you subject those to a certain frequency or range of frequencies, it disrupts them. It'll send you into an immediate flight or fight. And like I said, we'll be releasing that whole video this week sometime.
Sweet. I can't wait to see that. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, man. So it's there's a lot out there, and there's definitely a science behind this. I have a little bit of trouble when it comes to the mystical side of the subject, you know, because where do you put, you know, we're just a couple of analysts or investigators. Where do you put us in regards to the mystical side of it? We need data to test and to run these things and to find the patterns, you know, and there's just not a whole lot of that for us.
Yeah.
So it's the most difficult side, you know, is trying to find that out. You know, the orbs connection, the disappearing Sasquatch thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, you know. So
that invisible thing, there was a lady that put a video up on YouTube. Have you seen that one? Where she captures something invisible, which you could still kind of see the outline of it jump out of a tree.
Oh, yeah. I did see that. That was actually in Ohio, wasn't it?
I think it was. Did you listen to her tell her story about it, though?
I believe I did. And it came right out of the tree. She was in a deer stand, wasn't she?
I don't know if she's in a deer stand, or I know it was her and another person, because they was both. I may be getting it confused. It may have just been her.
Okay.
But her story behind it was what she got on video wasn't what she's seen.
Oh,
she seen something black jump out of a tree, and the video caught something, the outline of an invisible object coming out of the tree.
Okay, 2 different stories. I actually heard another one that is very similar to that. This lady was she was hunting, literally deer hunting, behind her and her husband's property. Mm-hmm. And the husband is elderly. He's not as mobile as he used to be, but she still liked to go out and do it. So she went out there, and she was sitting in her tree stand, and this invisible thing started to creep towards her out of another tree. And her only thought was, she snapped a picture with this happened, you know, probably about a decade ago or more, a little Nokia phone. She snapped a picture, and in the picture, there's blonde hair.
Oh, wow.
But what she saw was invisible. She just wanted something to take to her husband to show him. And while that was happening, the same moment that was happening, about 5 miles from that area, there was a high school football game going on where a UFO stopped over the game, and everybody there saw it, and then it vanished. So,
no kidding.
Really, really crazy stuff. And hearing the one you're relaying here, and hearing, you know, and putting those two together, that's pretty wild. You know, something invisible or dark, shadowy, whatever, and then you get, you know, when you come to look at the evidence, it's not even that. It's something different. That's an interesting reoccurrence right there.
Yeah, knowing there's more than one person that's seen that.
Yeah.
You know, they probably don't know each other.
They probably don't.
So, or why make up something like that?
It's so obscure too. What, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a really obscure tale. I mean, why would you? How would you just land on that as your story? I mean, it'd be so much easier to say, "I'm in a tree stand. I saw Bigfoot." You know, and you can file that with 41,000 other sightings, but this one's so unique. You know, that's what always makes me wonder is how does these, if these people are hoaxing, especially in regards to Louis, the one we're tracking through Kentucky.
Yeah.
If it's a hoax, it's got 20 plus people corroborating this hoax over a span of almost 2 decades across the state of Kentucky.
Yeah.
They all have to be in on it.
With Louis, what's his distance right now that you've tracked?
Louis, the last one we saw was he was in northeastern Kentucky heading into Virginia, I want to say. So we actually need to go to Virginia's map next and start looking there and see if we can find him. It's overwhelming because of how many sightings you come across, and not all of them are Louis. Louis has a certain way he acts and moves, so it takes us a while to go through all of the others and kind of weed them out. Here's one that just popped out at a farm. That's definitely not Louis. He's not interested in farms. He never has been. He likes the rivers. He likes lakes. Every time somebody spots him, he's not hanging around. He's moving. He's on his way somewhere else. He's not there to see them or impress them. They catch him for a little bit and he's gone. So he's got a certain movement pattern, and he's heading northeast across.
Now,
Kentucky.
if he's headed towards northeast, do you think he's headed towards the what is that? Towards like Pine Mountain?
He might be. I mean, we know that he skirts certain places. There's, I'm saying this with air quotes right now. There's military bases that are apparently shut down, and he goes around those. He doesn't stick very close to those. The only one interesting area that I found was I'd have to bring the map up right now to be able to tell you the exacts, but you could see it on the video. In southwestern Kentucky, early on, there was a area where there was a couple dogmen sightings. I don't know how substantial those were, but Louis went around those. He did not stick to that area. He gave it a wide berth and went around it, and then he kept going on his path. So I was really interested in why he avoids those military bases so much.
I think you got something there.
Yeah, I'm not real sure. We're not sure how we want to release that, but
that's pretty cool that you've got it funneled in to one Mr. Louis.
Yeah, I don't.
What are the key things that you look for to know it's Louis?
With Louis, he's always on kind of a linear. When I say linear, I'm saying this very, very generously. He's somewhat linear to his path. He likes the rivers and he likes the lakes, and he never strays very far from them. I don't know if he's using that as a constant water supply, food supply, or if it's just a navigational marker for him. Maybe he's like, hey, this river's not going anywhere. I know where it leads. I'll just kind of skirt it. I'll follow it, He makes pit stops. He stops at lakes. He hangs out there for a while. He keeps going. It looked like on the map he had a little bit of trouble in Land Between the Lakes. We're not really sure what to make of that because there's a lot of stuff going on down there.
Yeah. Now, Land Between the Lakes, that's got Dogman and Bigfoot at it. Well, sightings of it on it.
That's kind of our vein of thinking there, too, because every time we find an area where the two overlap, there's always weird inconsistencies. The only thing I could assume was they're avoiding each other or one's after the other.
Yeah.
I don't know. But with Louis, he likes to hang out in an area for about a year and he moves on. He's not exactly loafing and he's not exactly hustling. He's just kind of moseying. He's not really in a hurry. He's just, it's almost as
loafing.
if he's just kind of, it's almost as if he's enjoying the area for a while, but he doesn't overstay it. And that's interesting to me. because that denotes that there's an intelligence there, that Louis, he's not dumb. He knows if he hangs out too long, eventually somebody's going to see him. It's time to move when it's time to move, you know. So Louis
has the accounts that you read on and stuff about Louis, has he gave a good description of him, of like, you know, they call types, but I'm more of a, did he look like a dude or something else?
I think he's a male. I think he's between 7.5, 8 feet tall. He's got darker fur than the average one. I don't think he's one of the, you know, reddish furred ones. I think he's dark. He's dark brown, maybe black. I don't know. He's definitely a big boy, and he's definitely startled several people along his path that's seen him. But he's not
aggressive. Has anybody give a good description of its face?
I don't think so. I mean, do you recall, Ty?
I don't remember any real big facial features, but there was a couple on there that I found that they had like sketches done.
Yeah.
And this was actually illustrated with color too, so it had the same kind of color, kind of features that people were talking about in other like year back encounters. With Louis. So
it's about a 20-year span too, which is pretty wild.
Oh wow!
He hasn't really slowed down either in 20 years. That's another thing I find very interesting. I don't think they age like we do. I really don't.
I really don't think they do either.
I think they age slower.
If you look at what they eat, they don't. You know, we can get as much junk as we want.
Yeah.
You know, they're eating everything from the earth. None of that garbage they put in our food is in their food.
Oh yeah,
and I believe you on that. With the aging thing, I think there's some you could probably look at and say they're over 150 year old.
Yeah, easily. I really do think that. I know this is going to be controversial, but there's a lot of experts out there that swear up and down that there's at least a population of what they say, 40,000 or more. I just don't agree. I think that's way overshooting this. I think that we're looking at something that's much smarter than that. It's not gonna overpopulate because it's not the nature of the species to. They're for the most part, yes, they come together in family pods when it's needed, but for the most part, they do wander. They roam and they look for resource, and they live that way. And I just don't see that as an animal or an archaic human, whatever you want to say. I don't see that as something that's going to just breed and breed and breed and breed and breed. I think they're much smarter than that, and they have a biological memory inside them, or an instinct telling them, hey, this is how many we have, this is enough, you know.
Yeah, I don't think they would exceed no more than a family of 4.
Yeah, that seems to be the common what people keep saying is they find them in groups of 4, usually a young baby or an adolescent, a smaller one, and an adolescent, something in like a teenager.
Yeah,
so it's pretty wild. But,
I'd love to be put on a family of them.
Oh yeah,
there's hundreds of people that have pods or groups or families, whatever they want to call them.
Absolutely.
On their property and stuff. And normally when you hear all that, you get more positive interaction with them.
Yeah.
Other than like if you just run across one.
Yeah.
And then they go with the black ones are nicer than the red ones.
Right. Yeah.
Well, why would a red one be pissed off all the time and the black one would?
I always wonder too if some of the encounters with the solitary Bigfoot is. What if he's in the rut? If it's rutting season, wouldn't you expect him to be kind of puffed up and aggressive during that time? To me that makes sense. If he's on the hunt for a female, looking for a female. We don't know how much distance he has to travel to find a woman, So what if during those little moments we're actually seeing, we're actually catching him in the rut. It's almost like a temper tantrum. He's banging on houses, he's throwing rocks, he's breaking shit. I mean, there's a lot there. There's so much room for, you know, abstract thinking and non-abstract thinking on this that I really feel like we just got to keep on weeding it out and keep on looking at every, you know, detail we can find.
Yeah. What do you think? I don't know if you've heard anybody talk about it, but have you ever heard of the Bigfoot Haven?
No, that's a new one for me.
All right. Big kind of, that guy, I don't know how he finds these people, but he finds the older people that's got 30, 40 years into it. And he had a guy on there that he didn't give specific locations to places, but he said, if you go here, I promise you, if you leave and you didn't have a Bigfoot encounter, it's your fault.
No kidding.
And he talked about a place that he had been to a couple times, and he said it doesn't happen every year. It could happen every year or every 2 to 3 years. And he said, I call it the Bigfoot Haven. Wow. He said it's a place in the mountains that if you get lucky enough to find, that there are like a big pack of them. He said that when the one that he had seen, you know, it was by a lake or a pond or something in the hills. He said, you know, there were, you know, the younger Bigfoot was playing in the water. He said they were, I would say 3 or 4 standing in a circle.
Wow.
He's like they was just talking. And the way he described it is, it's a place that multiple families just meet up.
Okay.
If he's still got it on there, I know Vic's good about putting something on there and then taking it off.
You know, it's funny too, because that actually corroborates pretty well with something I noticed recently. We were actually driving a big truck delivering. It was 4 months ago or more, I can't remember, but out in the middle of Ohio, there was this giant field with what were they called? Kingfishers? Yeah, kingfisher birds, and big old, you know, pointed beak, dinosaur-looking bird. There must have been millions of them out in the middle of a field, nowhere near water. Like, they all just met up there. And we both kind of sat there and looked at that like, man, it's funny, at that time I almost had a thought that this is important, but I don't know why. You know, that's pretty neat though. An idea that there's certain geographical locations where animals meet up, maybe to, you know, further bloodlines, and almost like an open formal, you know, here's my kids, here's your kids, you know, like we should mate these to these, you know, later on and keep on going, you know. What do you think? You know, arranged marriages.
You know, that was something that I had thought. Like, they say that you don't normally hear people talk about a family meeting with another family.
Yeah.
But it does happen. And what turned my gears a little bit is, well, if this one has a female that's this age and this family has a male that's this age, you know, do they try to match them out?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe they save, you know, kind of like a dog, you know, they save the scent or something. Maybe I can smell that female, and maybe later on when he grows to, you know, a full grown or whatever, maybe he remembers that smell and goes looking for her, you know. I don't know. It's interesting. There, like I said, there's a lot of different things. But Josh, we're coming up on about an hour and a half here. It's about our limit for what we're allowed to upload. I don't know if you wanted to check in with us again here, maybe a couple weeks or something. See, you know, we continued on, or, you know, if you get a chance to meet up with Candace, maybe we could follow up with that, or.
Yeah, I gotta try to get a date set. My brother just found out he had COVID, and he goes on stuff with it. So it'll be at least more than 2 weeks. Okay. Hopefully within next month. And if anybody out there is listening that, you know, like I said, wants to trust in somebody to come out, you know, look around. I don't care to drive. Okay. But if I'm going to drive, you know, 2 or 3 hours, they absolutely has to be something there, and it has to be constant. But
yeah, absolutely.
if it's close, local, and you think there's something there, I don't mind to come out and look.
Well, hey, another thing we could do is if we find anything, as we go, we could always send stuff your way. I mean,
hey, send it my way, brother.
Just I got your email address, and if anybody reaches out to us, all we need is your permission to give them your email address and go from that.
Hey, that's good with me, man. I really appreciate y'all talking to me and throwing stuff back and forth. I can't wait to hear what you got found out about Dog Man. I'm excited about that.
Hell yeah,
that's
man.
One of the things I'm going to knock off my list one day is I want to see one of them.
Yeah, man.
I don't care how I got to see it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm right there with you. I'm just worried that if I release this, that Dogmen are going to come looking for me afterwards, and that's the part I'm wrestling with.
Hey, bud, let me tell you something. You think they're going to come look for you? My guy in Cape Run, he'll back you up. He's dead on one.
All right, that sounds good. We really appreciate you, man, reaching out to us and bringing some great stories and some great info to us, man. Definitely going to do what I can to help you out and further your own personal quest.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Like I said, anything Bigfoot, Dog Man, little person, holler at me.
Hell yeah, man. Well, we're glad you're out there doing and going to the places that the rest of us are scared to go.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I'm the one that ain't afraid. I promise you that.
Right on, man. But yeah, brother, we definitely appreciate it, and we'll keep in touch, man. I'll keep checking in with you. Hell yeah. Anybody out there listening, if you got something on your property, if you got something that's not quite right, send some stuff to us. Send it over to us, encounters@kyxfiles.com, and if you really need it, we will put you in touch with Josh here, and maybe he can come out there and sort it out. That would be pretty awesome. All right, Josh, we appreciate you, man, and be safe out there.
All right, brother. Appreciate you, man.
All right, man. Take it easy.
See you, up.
What do you think, man? That was pretty wild.
Yeah, a lot of shit.
Yeah, that was a lot of stuff. I mean, he's definitely out there looking.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely heard a few. Definitely more than a few people say that to go looking for the stuff is a dangerous game to play. But we kind of need one of them guys to come around every now and again. Them guys that are willing to jump in like that. So
need those good old boys.
Yep, good old Kentucky boys. That's who you got to send in. But
they see a Sasquatch, they say, "Hold my beer."
That's it. He said he's going to be. Well, he actually said he was already in touch with Gandus, and they're working out a time and when they're going to get together. And I can't wait to see what he comes up with.
Yeah,
honestly,
we say it all the time on this. Like, we look at other stuff that people's already looked at, so it's good to see a second set of eyes.
Yeah.
So that's good to actually get him out there and do that. Like, I really would have liked to go out there and do it myself, but we don't have that much time.
Yeah, time is a problem always. Just getting the time together to do this and the research we've been doing it's already expensive enough. But everybody out there listening, we appreciate you. Thank you for all the subscriptions, all the follows, the good feedback, reaching out to us, letting us know what's going on, what you liked about the show. I've had a few people reach out about our actress, our voice actress that introed the show. It's pretty cool. She's great. Catherine Keh, she's awesome. Really appreciate her. And this will be uploaded probably in about 2 weeks, so you guys are in for a lot of good stuff. We're going to keep it coming, and can we let that car go past and start that one over? So yeah, this one will be released in about, I'd say, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 1-2 Sundays from now, and then we've got a lot of content to follow. So stay on the ride with us, guys. From the get-go, we brought you in here with us to try to sort through all this, and the pile is not getting smaller. There's a lot to look at.
If anything, it's getting bigger.
Yeah, it's getting bigger.
It never got, it started going down, but it just got bigger instead.
I think Bigfoot hijacked our podcast, so.
Yeah, I was wanting to talk a little bit more about other things, too. I feel like we would get to that, but there's so much about Bigfoot that you just can't really
it's hard to ignore it.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to ignore it.
Yeah, I would definitely like to get into some of the other subjects, but I feel like we're going to be busy with this one for a while, and then at some point we're going to have to present a conclusion, and I'm dreading that moment as much as I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Because I know at that moment definitive things are going to be said, and we have to be willing to stand by those things regardless of the different information that we're getting over a period of time. But thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. We will see you on the next episode. You guys be cool out there.
Out.
And we out.